So what's the hook? It's a quick session. I hope you all enjoy it. It's just a brief insight really into what happens after you've signed, sealed and delivered your animation. So the broadcaster, who decides who sells it to kids? How much weight does a broadcaster set behind it? And who decides what's the hook? So my name's Wes Wood. I've been fortunate enough to spend many years behind the scenes at ITV and the BBC, and have worked on brands such as Thunderbirds, Go Jetters, Tracy Beaker, Horrid Henry, Adventure Time, Pokemon, to name a few. And I always find it really interesting to see how a broadcaster approaches selling a new intellectual property to children. So join me on the panel. We have three lovely people from the BBC. Kate Fawcett, Marketing Executive for Marketing and Audiences. Adam Redfern, producer of the animated preschool hit Go Jetters. And Tim Jones, Creative Director of the new in-house BBC Creative Department based at Media City. So we'll start. Adam, if you don't mind. We're going to look at Go Jetters today as a bit of a comparison against everything. Could you just talk us through Go Jetters? Obviously, Series 1's been delivered, but Series 2, you've just... Are you on?
I think so, yes.
Series 2 has just been delivered. What were the challenges of producing the second series, and what did you want to do different and change for the audience?
Sure. Thanks, Wes. Hi, everyone. Well, the delightful challenge was that Go Jetters Series 1 has done really well and exceeded our expectations. Kids love it, and parents do as well. And it tops the ratings. It's proved a hit. It's rolled out on a number of channels around the world, partnered with BBC Worldwide. So then you have the fantastic challenge of coming back to Series 2 and, I guess, keeping the bar high, and then also keeping it fresh for the people watching and our viewers, fresh for us, fresh for the writers, fresh for the director, the animators, so that everyone's motivated to keep telling exciting stories. So I guess some specifics on Series 2 might have been, we went around the world. The constantly varied thing and rich thing about Go Jetters is that we're going to a different space rather than running around the same world like Postman Pat goes around his village and so on and telling loads of stories in the same space. We obviously have the privilege of going to different countries, cities, landmarks. But then with Series 2, I was grateful for one line that opens our theme tune that's trained at the Go Jet Academy, that we just put in development of the show, went in at the start of our theme tune. We didn't touch that backstory about the academy and where they train for 52 episodes. We just went around the world, which worked great. But my one bit of advice is always put backstory in, and just even if you keep it under the bonnet for 52 episodes, when you come to episode 53, boy, we were grateful because we're like, okay, we've got the academy. Where did they come from? Where did they start from in their ship? Where did they train? So let's do some episodes for Series 2 that show kids this kind of Hogwarts for geography, and let's model a secret island somewhere that they train at. So that's been a real gift for Series 2 for keeping it fresh. So, as I say, backstory can really pay off, even if you sort of leave it bubbling away underneath and then unlock it for later episodes. To some technical specifics as well with the look of the show. We went and spoke to kids after Series 1 and they loved it, loved the characters. Interestingly, when we sit down with 5 and 6-year-olds and say, so what do you love about Lars or Kyan or Zuli or Foz, who are all name-checked in our theme tune, not every kid knew the name of our lead heroes, which could have been disastrous, but what it meant was that they saw them as a team of 4. And that totally worked. We gelled this heroic team of 4 versus our baddie and with our mentor, Ubercorn. But kids didn't know their names, even though we're singing their name every single episode. So we wanted to write better stories that personalised those characters and followed a single Go-Jetter. And then technically on the animation, we'd do things, we'd push the expressiveness in their faces, we'd sharpen their eye dots on series 1 are relatively diffuse and soft. We'd do subtle things that still kept the continuity of the show, but we'd do things like sharpen their eye points and give them more mouth shapes to express through and so on, so that you really care more about that individual character, and so kids would learn the individuals as well as the team.
Okay, cool. So just for those who don't know, actually, what is just the basic premise of Go Jetters? I think we might have skipped that one, but we're about to show a clip, but I think just kind of a bit of a prelude to the clip. What is the premise?
Yes, good question. How can I put this as shortly as possible? It's an action comedy geography show. If you cross the A Team for preschoolers, or Thunderbirds with a disco dancing unicorn mentor and a mustachioed baddie who meddles with everything, that's Go Jetters.
Sold. So we're going to jump the gun very slightly, and we're going to show the first trailer, which was the Attention to View Kids Airtime trailer, which launched Series 2 in summer this year. Okay, roll clip 1.
In a world where funky fact is more powerful than fiction, we search to fix that glitch. Greatness will overcome grandmasters, and heroes will rise. Go further than ever before. Brand new Go Jetters.
Okay, we jumped the gun a little bit there with the clip. We showed the international version, which was a trailer that was made not for our country, that went to BBC Worldwide, which actually leads me on to a question, Kate. Adam mentioned that he basically wanted to make a series that was bigger and better than ever before. From your point of view, who gets to decide how much weight you put behind the marketing campaign? And in the case of Go Jetters, how much or how in-depth was that brief?
Excuse me. So Go Jetters is a co-production with BBC Worldwide. It's one of their biggest commercial programmes, and for BBC Children's, it's quickly become a flagship brand for CBeebies. In terms of who sets what kind of marketing support a programme gets, that really comes from the commissioner. And in this case, Alice Webb was involved, who's Director of Children's, along with BBC Worldwide. So from a marketing point of view, we decided to work with Worldwide really closely and share all the assets that we created for the UK with them, so they'd be shared and used globally. So what that meant was all stakeholders coming together, BBC Worldwide, production, marketing, creative, all coming together. I wrote a brief that was shared with all the teams, and we all worked to one single-minded message. So really, I think that about sums it up.
So it's quite a collaborative process
Really
between
collaborative,
you and the commissioner, and obviously the producers. So just as that was briefed, we've just seen the clip, which was the global the global version of the trailer. So that trailer went to BBC Worldwide, and they presumably sent that to all of the countries in which BBC broadcast the show.
Yeah, so originally the idea was that we'd create one trail that would be used by both BBC Public Service and BBC Worldwide, but from our briefing session, we wanted to create a sort of Marvel-esque trail that you'll see in a minute, and for that we used an AC/DC track that was unfortunately unclearable for worldwide use. But we made the decision that actually we wanted to use it in the UK. So rather than lose that opportunity, we would create another trail for them, which we're actually going to use in the UK to launch the next batch of new episodes in January. So we're still, and both felt the same in terms of tone and epicness and really what we wanted to achieve for the second series. So yeah, I don't know if we want to show the AC/DC track.
Okay, please roll clip number 2.
It's time for the Go-Jetters to suit up. For more geographic action, more adventure, and more, disco.
Hey, Go-Jetters! Things just got heavy.
What's happening up there?
You know, Jetters are not going to spoil my adventure.
Go further than ever before. Brand new Go-Jetters starts today at 5 on CBeebies.
And is it true, I have to say that, is it true that to date, Go-Jetters is the highest watched property on CBeebies?
Yeah, one of. So we've achieved over 500,000 viewers on a couple of episodes. I think in general, the marketing campaign not only really built excitement for the new series, we saw a resurgence in series 1 as well. It really sort of built, everyone's excitement. Everyone was tuning in to repeats and they were performing better than ever. So it really did. Everyone was really excited. Are we going to show the adult airtime trail as well? Oh, yeah. I won't mention that.
Okay, well, that brings me on to Tim. Tim, you recently left McCann's in Manchester and set up BBC Creative North Division at Media City with co-director James Cross. Can you talk us through the new setup and how creative briefs, specifically Go-Jetters, are approached?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with the setup. So BBC Creative in itself is quite a new proposition. So it's all about, I think the BBC was the last broadcaster not to have all of their marketing done in-house and delivered through one agency in-house. So that's kind of the idea behind BBC Creative. I think we're approaching a 2-year anniversary. I think we've been in the North now just over a year. And sort of, yeah, so we're creatively, we head up, with my creative partner, James, we head up children's sport, learning and charities. So I think the whole idea of bringing the marketing in-house is to make sure that you can you can maintain a creative quality throughout everything you do, and by building a partnership with the marketing team, the exec production team, everyone working in the same building on the same things at the same time, that you can not only make more cohesive product but also a more creative product and have more quality control over it, basically. So if you were to take the Go-Jetters brief as an example, I think, like Kate said, it's that example to sort of work really closely together on something, or be working to one single-minded proposition that everyone agrees on, that, not everyone has a different point of view as it goes into different places, into different buildings, into different team. Everyone is working to the same piece of paper, and everyone has the same goal at the end of it, which is to create, whether it's in one trail or 2 trails, or in this case, as you're about to show the third, it's sort of to deliver what Go-Jetters is, encapsulate it into 30 seconds and get our audience excited about it. So it helps when it's something like Go-Jetters, because it's such a good property and there's so much to build on there. So it wasn't the hardest brief in the world. It was a really fun one to work with, and when it's animation like this as well, and then the next trail we're going to show in a minute, sort of in the first instance there's great content to draw from the show to create a really good story, and then in the second instance, because it's animated, we can let our creative flow a bit more and create something bespoke that we wouldn't be able to do if it was something in the real world.
Okay, so just before we move on to the next clip, we're talking about selling to children. Obviously, we make trailers and we know kids watch them, but the world's changing rapidly. And I think, Tim, you know quite a lot about this sign, kind of, social media and social marketing. Kids aren't watching, they're skipping the junctions between the shows now, which is a pain for us marketeers and everybody else, because nobody's watching the trailer for your show. So how all of a sudden do you let those children know that something new is coming on, or do you have to change your marketing strategies? And are you only talking to the kids, or perhaps are you using those social media to talk to the parents too?
Yeah, it's a really good question and a really interesting challenge. So where I was working before in the sort of the more commercial advertising world, I mean, it was it was easier to target people because they're not kids. Obviously, at the BBC, we have a public responsibility not to, feed children with, and get them hooked into social media when they shouldn't be on those platforms at all. So there's a certain responsibility there, but there's a big job to do at the BBC because, no matter what your role from the top down, everyone's job is to reinvent the BBC for a new, younger audience. And that audience is, behaviours are changing hugely. Year on year, it's kind of, our biggest competitors are YouTube as much as it is ITV and Netflix and all of those really. So, we haven't got a passive audience sitting there waiting to be served up a 20, 30, 40, 60-second commercial. Like you say, more often than not, they're just skipping the ads or skipping the junctions. So we have to go to them, and that's going to be a big part of it. And I think that's going to be a big challenge in the marketing at the BBC is that, we have this amazing inventory that we have access to that's, tons of junctions that we can broadcast to, but we have to think smart and we have to think in different ways to be able to take our content to the audience. And then to your other point about who we're talking to, I think to a degree we're talking to the kids, and we have to be honest with ourselves and say, kids are on social media and they are on platforms that they're probably too young to be on. And we have to.
Is that preschoolers on Twitter?
Yeah, preschoolers on Twitter. But I mean, CBeebies into CBBC as well. But I guess if you take CBeebies and the role there is whether it's on social or show, or advertising in adult airtime, is we have to sell the shows to the parents as much as they do to the kids. Because I think
that's a really good point actually about preschool on social media is that that feels easier sometimes, the decisions we talk about in-house, because there's the dual layer with preschool. We know parents will be watching more likely than with a CBBC audience, so that we tone everything and the messages through social media, through Facebook and Twitter for Go-Jetters. We have like our CBeebies grown-ups team. So it's the message and the copy and the post that you put up there is aimed at the parents. So that because we know you're supposed to be 13 and up to use Facebook. I think it's a trickier grey area.
Yeah,
with
they
CBBC.
kind of make the viewing decision in the first instance. It's not like a toddler's sitting down and saying, flicking through the Radio Times, deciding, I think I'm going to watch this today. They're the people that are making the viewing decisions in the first instance, and then the great show and the story and everything else that goes in that will then drive the kids to wanting to repeat viewing. So it's kind of the job first is sort of encouraging the parents, particularly on CBeebies. But there's a big job to do going into CBBC is when our audience, as they age, CBBC cutoff is 12. So there's a huge gap from 12 to 16 when they might come back to the BBC and start watching Doctor Who or EastEnders or whatever it might be. So there's a huge gap to fill in that gap, and that can definitely be done through social media. I think a really interesting fact we were told when we first started was the most popular programme in 2016 for 12 to 16-year-olds was Peaky Blinders, but they were all watching it on Netflix.
So kind of the world's shifting, and certainly kind of the people who you're targeting is shifting as well. You're kind of strategically now making content to specifically target adults who will be consuming this media through social, and then encouraging their own children to watch it, which kind of leads us on to the next clip. But before we show it, Kate, do you want to just talk about kind of briefing something like that in?
Yeah, the trailer we're about to see. Yeah, so we had a creative brainstorm, and really we wanted to speak to adults. So thinking about the show, our initial idea was to do a sort of wish you were here style trail, really talking to adults, but then thinking about the CBeebies audience and the age of parents, they probably wouldn't maybe necessarily remember wish you were here. So we moved away from that and then thought about other BBC shows and what shows might lend themselves well to go-getters, and that's when we had the idea of Ubercorn appearing on Mastermind. And we just thought this would work really well. So this is a trail that went out on BBC One and Two. So often our media planning team have trouble placing CBeebies trails. Just tonally, they sometimes jar with BBC content. So for go-getters, I really wanted to avoid that and create something that could be placed, around Mastermind or wherever really. So tonally, it would fit on BBC One and Two. So that's what we did. I spoke to John Humphreys and he agreed to be animated in a Go-Getters style. And the Mastermind team, luckily the producer had a little boy who's a huge fan of Go-Getters, so it was a pretty easy sell, to be honest. But it's a really great example of collaborating with another area of the BBC, and one that we're probably looking to do, we'll probably do a bit more of now. I think this has sort of set a bit of a precedent, hopefully. So, yeah.
Okay, let's watch clip number 3.
Hello, and welcome to Mastermind. Ubercorn, named the CBeebies Funky Fact Geographic Adventure Show.
Go-Jetters
Correct. Matterhorn.
is a mountain.
Out of time, no jetter!
I've started, so I'll finish. The Matterhorn is a mountain so big it's in 2 countries at once.
Switzerland and Italy.
Correct, John. Brand new Go-Jetters. Funky facts for you, little you, and your grandparents too. Starts Monday at 5 p.m. on CBeebies.
That was a very late render of not a final render. It's my fault, that actually. But so that
Still look great though.
It still looked great. So that actually ended up being a bit of a social media success as well, did it not?
Yeah, it did. We actually managed to put some paid money behind. So we have the terms of paid media. Basically, it gets a boost on Facebook. So I don't know how many it reached, but it did reach quite big numbers. So, pardon?
It was a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, well, we're just going to move very swiftly on because we've got to wrap up. But Adam, you kind of came up with a great idea to also cash into another great BBC property, which I think help enhance Go-Jetters and kind of resell it to another audience. So can you just very briefly just give us a quick rundown of the idea, and we'll play the clip.
Yes. This came from... I'm often asked to present within the BBC and just refresh top of the agenda of the meeting, fill everyone in with what's happening with Series 2. And so I was looking for a different way to cut it and cut a little sizzle reel together to show the people in the BBC meeting. And an itch I wanted to scratch was... I've been on the show for a couple of years now, so keeping it fresh for yourself is really important, I think, as well, if you're right in the middle of making it and head down every day on a project. Like, you'll all know you obsess about your project, you care for it, but you kind of pull your head out of that and you try and keep fresh with it. So I wanted to take the shots, and you've seen a flavour of the show's pace is quite pacey action comedy over a disco soundtrack. So... I delved around in the BBC archive and I took a bit of soundtrack from Planet Earth, the last series, and a bit of Sir David Attenborough's voiceover, and just wanted to cut our shots to that kind of tone and that borrow from that big cousin across the BBC and put something together. And I showed this trail, and it really lit a spark in the meeting that everyone really liked it. And kind of we all kind of went, why haven't we thought of this before? Because it's about new locations, it's about discovery, it's about exploration and all about our world. So there's so many values that Go-Jetters and the big natural history unit shows like Planet Earth share in common, that this feels really good as a collaboration. So that fast forward to this October, and I'm sure you've been aware of the huge launch of Blue Planet 2 on the BBC. So we made this.
Brilliant, thank you. Just to very quickly recap there, obviously our session was What's the Hook, and I think it's safe to say that there's multiple ways of selling one piece of IP. I just want to say a massive thanks to our panel and thanks for listening. Cheers.